Sometimes when I feel like I'm really right, I actually wonder maybe, just maybe, I'm that far away from being really right. Sometimes I get overconfident. And I don't know if you've ever done this, but being overconfident is a real problem. Hi, I'm Bruce Spurlock. I'm a physician and healthcare leader committed to helping professionals and decision makers navigate change with certainty. On Viral Healthcare, we look at the trends and ideas spreading across healthcare, what works, what doesn't, and what would make them sustainably be implemented effectively. On today's reflection, I want to spend just a few minutes looking at this idea of being overconfident because we think we have the problem really well identified, but we really haven't done the diagnostic part of it. So I'm a doc, and I think about diagnosis as necessary precondition before we get into treatment. So we talk about solutions and ideas and innovations and new practices. We better be hitting the right problem and really understanding it. After all, we have this new concept called diagnostic error in healthcare. We know that we make the wrong diagnosis or a delayed diagnosis or a diagnosis that we don't act on. We know that there's all these problems. So why wouldn't those same kinds of things, same kind of issues happen with decision-making, leadership choices, the way we're driving and adding new things, new ideas to our organization? Sometimes it's because we don't really completely understand the problem and we may be solving the wrong problem. One of the things I'm convinced of is that healthcare leaders in particular do a great job at identifying problems. We have a lot of dashboards and a lot of signals that, yeah, we got a problem here. We don't always have the good diagnosis about what's underlying, what are deeper, what are more fundamental reasons that these happen. And a good example is when we think about things that might be our problem, but they're really everybody's problem. And I talk about a shortage of primary care providers is a good example of that. You know, there's just not enough out of there, not enough coming out of residency. We have a shortage all around, and yet we're all going after that same shrinking pool. The problem is not enough people. The solution probably isn't going to be more people because that's just a fundamental systems-based problem. Sometimes the problem is in our organization, and it's not unique to anybody but us. And it's dysfunction we've had from history, from choices, from structures that we have, from some of the context that we have that's unique to our setting. And so there's our type of problem, our own organization, their type of problem, which is like a systems issue, and sometimes some kind of combination of those. So sometimes we have to deal with those problems, not because they're ours, theirs, or anybody else, but just because we have to. Sometimes I think we get a signal about a problem, some loud noise. And I talk about loud noise as being like some advocate, some physician, some outside voice that says, you have to do this, you have to work on them. And we pay attention because they're really, really squeaky and not necessarily because it's the highest priority. So that's the squeaky wheel, noise is greater than the signal kind of phenomena that's happening. I want to transform now into this notion of how do we sort of orient our organization the right way for being problem-oriented, and that's part of the issue. Mary Dixon Woods from the UK and Scotland coined this idea. There are these companies that are comfort-seeking and companies that are problem-sensing. And she said we do this. We kind of look for the reassurance that we're doing okay. They're comfort-seeking ones are the ones that want the same information over and over, whereas the problem-sensing ones are always wondering, like, what's around the corner? The shoe's going to drop. If I lift up this rock, what am I going to find under it? And it's the problem-sensing ones that ultimately find the real needs that are going on, the deeper issues, and can actually create solutions and create adaptations for those things that make the sense in the long run. So what kind of organization do you have? Do you have a comfort-seeking one? Do you have one that's really interested in learning, kind of always seeking, always thinking that there's just more problems out there. We've solved this one, but what are the next ones that we're going to be facing? Sometimes going out in your organization and asking people what they see as either the dominant problems or the hidden problems that you may not be aware of. So as we think about trying to deal with viral healthcare, one of the issues is making sure we at least have our arms around a really good set of ideas about what's going on. Not just something top line, not something because there's a lot of noise, a lot of advocacy, a lot of squeakiness going on, but really because there are significant problems. So this week, just sit back and say, is there a time when I have probably been working on the wrong issue? Or at least when I'm working on it, I have kind of a superficial, top level understanding of it. That's something to think about, is to really get deeper and understand the complexity behind all these issues. Do you have a simple understanding or a complex understanding of your problems? With that, I'm Bruce Spurlock. I will see you next week, and I'm looking forward to our next session on viral healthcare.